What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is for a few more minutes, Sunday, October the 2nd, as we recap all of Week 4's action. You're probably listening, or if you're still watching with us live on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6. Monday, October 3rd. Week 4 almost in the books. On a larger scale, joining me to break down all the action, Ryan Wilson and John Breech. What's up, boys?
Hey. On a larger scale, what?
Yo.
No time to talk, Breech.
You sound
Go
quiet,
ahead.
Wilson. It might be my volume then, not yours.
He sounds high, like his voice, or like
He sounds
something
quiet.
else? Oh,
You're high.
Do we feel like we know what? Do we feel like we know anything about the NFL in 2022 yet? I don't feel like we do.
I said to myself a lot during the Sunday's action, man, there's a lot of parody going on.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
But I like it. It's better. It's better.
There are no. I guess there's one winless team still remaining in the Houston Texans. They do have a tie, and there's one undefeated team left in the Philadelphia Eagles at 4-0. There's really, just quickly looking through it. I think I guess the largest separation from first to worst in the division is the NFC East, which has naturally three teams in the playoffs. If the playoffs started today, yes, that's correct, including the Dallas Cowboys, who don't even have Dak Prescott. Anyway, that's just sort of an observation. Like, I don't think that we can know.
the NFC East has as many teams with 3 wins or more as the entire AFC.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Boom.
I think the other takeaway is that those stupid rankings, preseason predictions we make in August are inevitably useless, which that's the whole point.
Well, now we sound like college football writers. Don't do preseason poll.
What are you talking about, Brinson?
I had the Jaguars being first, and
The Jaguars that got steamrolled after going up 14-0 today. That team.
The Eagles in the
NFC
Super Bowl?
champion, the Eagles.
Just saying, can't have everything.
Your picks are terrible. Congratulations.
Not a great year for anyone.
By the way, before
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
love it. Billy came packing heat tonight. Before Brinson keeps dunking on himself, just take a look at the old CBS Sports Expert Picks page. Oh, Wilson's making a run like it's 2021 up in here, suckers.
I love it. All right, let's start on Sunday Night Football with recapping the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. Chiefs kind of steamrolled them. 41-31, the final, but only because, well, I would say a garbage time touchdown. Like, there was Patrick Mahomes was intercepted late. The Bucs run and hurry up thinking, all right, if we score a touchdown here, maybe we get onside. We got a prayer, but it wasn't really going to happen. The Chiefs looked incredible on offense. Patrick Mahomes, 23 of 37 for 249 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Sort of, I think it doesn't really give the whole detail of how good he looked. And that offensive line was fantastic. Both Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Isaiah Pacheco ran really well behind that offensive. Pacheco ran really well behind that offensive line. The Buccaneers had the fewest rushing yards in the first half of any game in Tom Brady's career. Tom Brady threw the most consecutive passes, 20, I think it was, check out at 28 maybe, of his career, which is crazy because he's been playing, he's 45. And the Bucs look very one-dimensional, and it's probably their best day on offense so far this season, but the defense that had been so good just got carved up, Wilson, by that fantastic Kansas City offense.
I don't even know if it's their best day on offense. You sort of talked about it. All they did was throw the ball, and they were down early. You can't fumble the opening kickoff because if you do, you're going to give a touchdown. That happened. You can't take a strip sack because that's going to end in a touchdown. That happened. Breech, let me ask you this. They rushed the ball 6 times combined, the Buccaneers did, for 3 yards. If you got 6 NFL carries in any game, doesn't matter to the team, do you think you could get 3 yards?
Maybe. That's a half yard per carry?
Yeah.
A half yard per carry?
Sorry, what? Did you say you could get 3
yards and 6
on 3
carries?
carries?
No, he said
any yards.
He asked if I could get 18 inches per carry.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Reasonable.
Well, the point is this. The fact that we would have this conversation tells you how bad the Bucs run game is. And I'll also say this. At no point during this game, because, again, it started with that opening kickoff fumble by Rashad White, did I feel like the Chiefs weren't going to steamroll this team? Like the Buccaneers never threatened Kansas City as far as I was concerned. And, Brinson's all about the revenge games. I do think there was probably some of that last time they played. They got stomped. And the offensive line, as Brinson noticed, much better. You talk about Patrick Reed having an edge. I think Andy Reid has an edge too. Like he's all fun and, Santa Claus during Christmas time, but I think he likes to stick it to people. And unfortunately for Todd Bowles, he was on the receiving end of that whooping. Let me ask you
the most points given up by Todd Bowles by the Bucs since Todd Bowles arrived there as defensive coordinator in 2019.
Breech, let me ask you this. Joe Musso asked me this on HQ, me and BMAC, and it's actually, I was thinking about it during the game, and maybe it's just speculation, pointless speculation and nothing else. Tom Brady looks less happy now than anytime I can remember. He's still playing at a high level. He's one of the best players, yada, yada, yada. Does he look less happy to you, or is that just the fact that he's throwing a bunch of receivers he would prefer not to throw to?
Well, we know for a fact, does not insult Tom Brady, that he is a sore loser. Nobody hates losing more than this guy. He doesn't shake people's hands after losses. And I think it set in pretty quickly that he was not going to win this game. And then he had angry loss face on his face starting in about the second quarter, right when the Buccaneers decided they weren't going to run the ball anymore and they were only going to throw it. That was the sign of a team that said, all right, this is our only shot to win. And I feel like the play that really shifted the momentum and said the Chiefs are winning this game was after the Buccaneers came up with a huge play, stopped Kansas City on 4th and 1, and then the Buccaneers immediately get the ball back. Tom Brady gets hit, fumbles it. Kansas City goes down and scores, takes a 28-10 lead, and that was all she wrote. I mean, that's where the upset Brady face immediately showed up. That's where the Buccaneers clearly decided, you know what, we can't even afford to run anymore because the Chiefs might put up 75 points in this game. So I don't know. I wasn't watching him closely in the first quarter, but it just felt like that he doesn't usually fall behind this early in a game. He's not usually down 3 touchdowns in the second quarter.
I feel like all season he's had that face. And part of it is because he didn't have Godwin. He didn't have Mike Evans for the suspension game and no Gronk. And he wanted to get out. He wanted to go to Miami, according to reports. Someone in the comments, Victor, asked if the things get cupcakeier for Tampa Bay, and they actually do. And they're going to win this division anyway, but they just don't feel like the joke. Like I didn't think they were going to win the division, so I wasn't high on them coming into the season. But they're Atlanta at Pittsburgh. They're going to win that game 1,000-0. Then at Carolina before they play the Ravens. So they have 3 get right games. The toughest game being the Falcons. But again, I don't feel great about this team in in January.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's fair to be concerned about them. I also think that there's a chance that this team, with the schedule that you're discussing, that they should really go 4-2, worst case, between now and when they play the Seahawks. Is that in Germany? Is that the German game?
Germany.
That's Allianz.
In Munich.
In Munich.
You know what's happening in Munich right now? Oktoberfest. Should have done the podcast from there.
That would be great. But I think there's a chance that you could see this team kind of coalesce, and they have Tom Brady. They've got weapons. They need to stay healthy. If they do that, they can make a run. I agree with you. I don't feel great about anybody on either side of the draw, really. I mean, you can say the Chiefs are awesome and the Bills are really dangerous, but I agree with your point.
You just named 3 teams that are better than the Buccaneers.
Well, what I'm saying is I agree with your point that this doesn't feel like a Super Bowl winning team right now, but we are just 4 weeks through the season. They're 2-2. We feel like they should cruise in the division as long as Brady stays healthy. And, it's like we always talk about with Belichick, likes to carve the season out into quarters, and you can't really do it now. You can't do it because it's 17, which is annoying. But these segments of the season, the Buccaneers are kind of finding their identity, and I'd be curious to see what it looks like moving forward. But no, they don't feel like a team that's overly impressive at the moment.
And I'll say real quick, Wilson, to your question even a little bit more, it does feel like all the time there is a point, at least over the past 5 years, in the first quarter of the season where we're like, does Brady want to be playing anymore? Even when his first season, the year they won the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, 2020, I remember there was a primetime loss to the Bears. It was total shocker. Nick Foles was the quarterback for the Bears, and Brady just looked dejected, and it was like, does he want to play anymore? And I think they were 3-2, so I guess that was week 5. And it was like, why did he even sign with a new team? Because they're not going to do anything. So like, I agree with Prince. It's early in the season. It's tough to make a strong judgment on them because so many injuries, suspension to Mike Evans, just everything has gone wrong so far. And they're still 2-2. They're fine.
All right.
Definitely some reasonable concern over the level of happiness that Brady is dealing with vis-a-vis his wife and her lack of interest in him continuing to play football.
Well, I mean, the man is 45 years old.
I'm just saying, like, if your wife's not happy with you about something, you know, it bleeds into it can bleed into your work life. Like, that's not an outrageous thing, right? You're like I was saying, we were talking about this the other day, but like, if I've got something on my mind, a lot of times I won't play golf as well. And sometimes it seems like Tom Brady's just getting like, usually he's used to getting off like the finishes a game and he's just like, I'm Tom Brady. I'll go do what I want. And now it's like, oh, you missed.
I'll be honest. Breech and I have talked about this. I don't think we've ever done a podcast with you when you haven't had something on your mind, given the quality that you're putting out there. No offense.
Seems.
Breech. I don't even know what that means.
It seems unnecessarily personal, but okay.
I was thinking about that for a while you were going on with your little rant there.
I mean, personally, I wouldn't take this level of disrespect.
Where did these come from? My goodness.
I love that Billy's getting a little color in this podcast finally.
What are you talking about?
And also, Brinson is no longer control all the sound.
Yeah, that's also.
It has been 8 years.
Tar Heels in the back of his pocket somewhere.
He's got that.
Anyway, yeah, would you like to, while you're poo-pooing the Bucs because you picked them not to win the division, they're clearly going to win it. Would you like to offer up any thoughts or commentary about the Chiefs and the AFC West and where that division's headed?
So I was asked to rank my teams in the AFC as of this game on Sunday night, and I have Chiefs, Bills, and then a distant third, the Ravens. Just based on what we've seen so far. The Ravens have to figure out how to finish football games because they should have won the last.
Should be undefeated.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, the Chiefs and the Bills are the same team, basically. I think there's a lot to love about both teams. Their quarterbacks are both two of the best athletes on the planet. And, I mean, you know, it feels like the 13-second game last playoffs. You just go back and forth each and every drive and just comes down to whoever has the ball last. The Chiefs are fine. I think this was sort of we can win without Tyreek game. They ran the ball 37 times. They ran the ball 31 more times than the Buccaneers. Think about that. Andy Reid is not known for running the ball a lot, and they ran it effectively. And shout out to Isaiah Pacheco. That dude's wearing number 10. That's a lot of responsibility comes to wearing number 10 in Kansas City. He plays as hard as Tyreek plays. Now, he's not Tyreek, but he's fast. He's sort of built the same size, and he's just looking to run over people and run into end zones. And I love the way he plays. The fact that he's a 7th-round pick is
I thought Chris Collinsworth had a good point too. It's like the way that he's playing clearly has sort of inspired Clyde Edwards-Helaire to step up his game. Like Edwards, he looks like he's having the best season of his career by far.
He's running hard too, except for that fourth down, throwing the ball on 4th down. The other takeaway that I had when watching the game is Pacheco was a 7th-round pick. Clyde was a 1st-round pick. Again, let's not overdraft these running backs.
That's perfectly fair. All right, Kansas City looks like a truck. I think they're going to cruise in the AFC West.
Are they though? Breech, are they?
Well,
I feel like they are. I feel like we all slept on Kansas City because Buffalo was out there as the
didn't
darling.
all sleep on Kansas City.
Well, I mean, we didn't sleep on. Everybody had
yelled over and over again that they were the best value in preseason betting to win the AFC West. I would not stop saying.
Yeah, no, that's not sleeping on. I'm talking about the Super Bowl. Everybody has them winning the AFC West. I'm talking about the darling of getting to the Super Bowl. And when I say everybody, I'm going by the predictions that we make on our website.
Did everybody have him win the Super Bowl? I was going to say
no. I'm saying that's where the sleeping happened. Is that everybody had the Bills or someone that's not the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl?
Okay.
Like you had the Ravens, I had the Broncos. Wilson, who'd you have? Not the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, the Chargers. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like everybody expected the Chiefs to be good. No one.
You had the Chargers.
It was like the Chiefs aren't going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I said. Chargers.
No, I said Breech had the Chargers too.
Oh, okay.
But I had more Chargers than Chiefs picks.
But everybody had the Chiefs in the playoffs. That was my point.
Okay, all right. Wow. Okay, that's ridiculous. All right,
That's not ridiculous.
Of course, everyone had the Chiefs in the playoffs. Anyway, Mahomes, 67 games, 20,000 passing yards, the fastest in NFL history, beating up Matthew Stafford, who's 71, Andrew Luck, 74, Dan Marino, 74. That's basically 4 Hall of Famers if Andrew Luck hadn't retired early. All right, let's get on to the next game. Vikings 28, Saints 25. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna audible. We're gonna go to the Bills 23, the Ravens 20, because we were just talking about, sorry, Billy, about the Buffalo Bills and how they
started everyone in London.
Yeah, no kidding. They stayed up late for this, and then you're going to push them. They have to go to work.
They stayed up early because it's like 6 a.m.
early for this. Well, I just think that the Bills winning 23-20 over the Ravens goes hand in hand with this Chiefs game because it, as you point out, Wilson, you're one team in number one and two teams in the AFC, Bills and Chiefs, and then the Ravens a distant third. Like Baltimore, their defense just has to be better. They should be 4-0. And by the way, can you imagine how insufferable I would be if the Eagles and the Ravens were the only 2 undefeated teams left in football? So you guys should thank the Ravens secondary for not allowing that to happen. Tons of points. I think it was like the Bills came back from down 17, and was it the Dolphins came back from down 21? Like, you know, if it were just this Bills game, it'd be one thing, but when you couple it with the Dolphins game, it's very clear that this is not a Ravens secondary that's capable of, or a Ravens defense that's capable of holding on to a lead, even when Lamar Jackson is playing really well. And I thought he played pretty well on Sunday, although the stats don't, you know, it was a sloppy game. Weather was a little tough.
Yeah, the weather was terrible. That didn't help. And I don't want to make excuses with the officiating, but there were some dog crap terrible calls into this game. And I say this as a Steelers homer having to defend the Ravens. Jerome Boger was in full effect late in the game. There was a roughing call on Brad Stevens versus Josh Allen. It was a tackle after Josh threw the ball.
That was a really bad roughing.
And Jerome said afterwards to the pool reporter that I saw a hit to the head and neck area, and I'm confident that I saw that. My response would be, you need to get glasses then, because that wasn't even the case. I mean, it's nuts. Now, that's not solely why the Bills went on to win that football game.
And real quick, if people didn't watch that game, this wasn't like that overturned a 4th down. The Bills could have still won it if that penalty wasn't thrown. That was on a 1st down that flag happened. Right. So it wasn't like the Bills got a free 1st down on a 3rd and long or something, and they were already in Ravens territory when that happened. So
yeah, the ball went to
it was not a good call, but it's not necessarily that it flipped the game.
The ball was at the plus 41 2 minutes ago, then it was pushed to the plus 26.
It was a little annoying too that Josh Allen turned around and started slamming the ground and pointed at Jerome Boger.
Hey, good for Josh Allen.
Like,
I'm not annoyed by Josh Allen doing it. I'm annoyed by like
that ball.
Allowing
no, yeah, it happens all the time. But I mean, the bigger takeaway for me was that Lamar Jackson is making himself a lot of money each and every week with the way he's playing. Credit to Josh Allen and Sean McDermott and the rest of that team for getting smoked early in that game. The first series of the game, Josh threw an interception, and they came right back after halftime and put it to the Ravens. Also worth noting, 4th and goal. The score's tied 20-20. 4th and goal with 4 minutes and 45 seconds to go in the 4th quarter.
And let's point out too that the Ravens on the play in question that you're talking about, the Ravens had a 14-play, 93-yard drive with 7 first downs that lasted 9 minutes and 29 seconds. They get to the Buffalo 2-yard line, and
it's 4th and goal. And we know that Harbaugh's all about analytics, and Lamar loves going for it. They go for it. And the worst, here's the thing, it's tied 20-20, almost 5 minutes to go in the game. If you don't get it, okay, it's fine. They get the ball to the 2-yard line, the Bills do, so you have a chance to back them up. Worst case scenario, other than a pick 6, Lamar throws a freaking interception in the end zone, so the ball goes to the 20. And what I wanted to add to that quickly is that our guy, Stephen O., huge Ravens fan, does a sports line. He's our data science nerd. He points out that, he said, just assume the math is 50% chance of scoring that touchdown, and a 50% chance, and then a 99% chance that you make the field goal. If you do the math, the expected value, that's 3.5 points for the touchdown, and 2.97 points for the field goal. Yes, 3.5 is more than 3 if they go for it, but the difference is that you are getting those 3 points. You are going ahead with under 5 minutes to go, and you can avoid things like throwing interceptions in the end zone, in which case the opposing team gets the ball not at the 2-yard line, but at the 20, and I get it, but that feels like Pete Prisco's conservatism probably would have come into play and been the
I
smart
would
play at that point.
Well, and the other thing I was thinking, somebody was like, why would the Ravens do that? I was like, I guess because they don't trust the defense against Josh Allen, and that's fair. But
you can't throw an interception.
Well, you can't throw the interception. And we've talked about this too. It's like, if you kick the field goal and the Bills are down 3, there is an inherent, like they're going to try to go get a touchdown. They got 4 minutes. But if they get within field goal range, they're inherently going to play it a little bit more conservatively because they know that they only need 3 points. They need 3 points to go to overtime. They're not going to be super aggressive. They won't want to get a turnover. They won't want to lose the game. They'll be willing to play for overtime if it gets down to that. And so from that perspective, I thought it probably didn't make sense to go for it. I also thought that on the play that got them to the 2, he could have challenged that. And they didn't really linger on it, I don't think, on the broadcast, but it looked like, was it Devin Duvernay who caught it? And then I think it was, but he caught it, but he wasn't touched. And he was down and short, and then he rolled forward into the end zone. Like, I think there's a chance, and I don't blame him for just going, if you're like on the 2, you got to be able to get 2 yards. But I think there's a chance that a challenge might have turned that into a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily hate them going for it there, but you absolutely under no circumstance can you throw an interception in the end zone.
And that's the thing you have to emphasize is like, look, Lamar, if we're going for this, the one mistake we cannot have is an interception under any circumstance, because that's the only thing that
or a sack.
I mean,
well, sack's a little better. At least you have the
sack, the Bills are only taking over at like the 8-yard line, but
I'm just saying that, like, yeah.
Right. I mean, interception's worse than a sack.
Yeah.
But so the interception is like the one thing that you
don't
really
force it into the end zone if it's not there, because we want them backed up at the 2.
Well, yeah, or if it's not there, just try and run it in. Like, do whatever you need to do. Yeah. You know, you're faster than every single person on the field. Yeah, so you guys would have kicked the field. I would have kicked the field goal here.
I was fine going with it, but with the caveat that you just laid out there. Like, if they get the ball to 2, that's fine. Make them earn it. 4.5 minutes to go. The problem is, though, 4.5 minutes to go, you feel like the Bills can sustain those drives. Maybe you do kick the 3 and then go with Brinson's strategy of them being a little less aggressive, knowing they don't need to. It's not a tie game. They're down 3 points. By the way, let me ask you guys this. So the last 7 games, here's been the point difference in the Ravens win-losses. They've it's been 3-4, 3-1, 1-2-1. Over those 7 games, what do you think their record has been and decided by one in games decided by 1 score?
I'm just guessing, what, 2-5?
1-6.
0-7.
Wow.
And how many of those have happened because of a weird John Harbaugh decision at the end of the 4th quarter? I mean, I can remember 2 2-point conversions last year alone at the end of the season. One against the Packers, and then maybe against the Rams. I don't know. The Browns. I don't know. They had they lost multiple games by 1 or 2 points on decisions like this. And Harbaugh even talked about this decision after the game. And he said that, you know, part of the reasoning for going for it was that if they kick a field goal, then you give this advantage to the Bills offense because they would be in 4-down territory at all times, which I don't think that, because if you're the Bills, if you're the Bills, you get the ball 4 minutes left and you have 3 timeouts and the Ravens hold you to 3 and out and you have a 3rd and 10 from your own 20. Are you going for it or are you punting it?
By the way, quickly, Dave.
Like, I don't know that they automatically with that.
It depends on what was it, 4th and what? Like 4th and.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's like 4th and 8 on your own 35, you're punting it. Like,
right, exactly. Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Harbaugh was saying that they were working under the assumption that the Bills would definitely be going for it on every 4th down if the Ravens scored.
Breech, Dave McNichols.
It was just weird. It was weird.
Yeah,
Everything was weird.
Breech, Dave McNichols in the comments reminds you that Harbaugh went for 2 against the Steelers and then the Packers and lost.
There we go. It was the Steelers.
I can't believe I lost the Steelers. I forgot about the Steelers game. That's the last time they probably
so many close losses that I can't even remember which game it was. But yeah, so they went for 2 against the Steelers and Packers and failed both times and lost. And so like that's where, and this I think we've heard Bryant McFadden kind of talk about this, where there's a psychological aspect to all of these analytical decisions. And if you keep failing and keep losing games, the tide can start to turn against you from the players' standpoint.
Marcus Peters wigs out and starts yelling at you. Like,
yeah. And so we don't know if the rest of the locker room isn't starting to feel that way. So you can't keep losing games that your players are playing well enough to win, that they're only losing because of a couple bad coaching decisions because the players are going to start getting upset.
From 1996 through 2021, the Ravens were 103 when they had a 17-point lead. They're 1-2 this season with a 17-point lead. That is
not great.
Quite remarkable. All right. Buffalo. If you had to pick right now, Buffalo or Kansas City?
I just said my rankings are KC, Buffalo, Baltimore in the AFC.
I'm back on the KC bandwagon. Put me on the barbecue bandwagon.
Yeah,
I'm not flying through tables anymore.
But to be clear, like 1 and 2 are extremely close, and 3 is a distance.
It's really a 1A, 1B for me, probably. That's why. All right. To the next game, which is Vikings 28, Saints 25. A lovely little early morning brunch ball.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
the ultimate 1 p.m. matchup between Kirk Cousins and Andy Dalton. I said on the Panthers radio stadium show before around like 2:30 this afternoon, said that I think Andy Dalton might have cemented his starting job in New Orleans. Breech.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I said at some point during the preseason is that obviously Andy Dalton is nowhere near Drew Brees, so I'm not saying it like this, but that Andy Dalton seems better designed.
He's nowhere near Drew Brees?
Yes, I'm prefacing my statement. I am going to say that Andy Dalton seems better designed to run the Saints offense, what they normally want to do, than Jameis Winston does.
You do realize Jameis Winston was playing out of his mind last year before he started.
Yeah, with Sean Payton, and like Brinson said during
that's the Saints offense, isn't it?
No, Sean Payton's gone, and now Jameis Winston's back to Chuck and Duck. He's got the air yards, he's got all the interceptions, and
the buzz was, I think that the Saints coaching staff and like everybody in front office too was sort of like, all right, Jameis a little banged up. We don't mind if maybe we just hold him out for safety purposes. And
here's the thing, though. Why do we keep falling for the Charlie Brown Lucy football trick? Every time that Andy Dalton goes to a new team, he plays well. Some idiot said there's a path to 9 wins with the Cowboys with that numbnuts playing quarterback. I think it's clear that he's good for 1.5 games. And then it'll just be same old Andy Dalton that's in tail end of his career at Cincinnati, chucking and ducking, as Breech describes it. How dare you, Breech?
By the way, my Philadelphia Eagles are currently holding the Saints 2023 first-round draft pick. That pick could be high. I don't think this team's very good.
No, they're 1-3.
I like the addition. I like Chris Olave looks like a stud. I do think Andy Dalton improved it, but he's not the answer. Obviously, they have plenty of weapons.
Well, the thing is that Andy Dalton played a 1-score game, ran the offense proficiently.
Is it sustainable, Breech?
He didn't have Michael Thomas or Alvin Kamara. There's missing.
Is it sustainable?
I don't know.
Jameis Winston isn't viable.
Let me ask you this: if would you rather have Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton for this team going forward?
It doesn't matter because Jameis Winston's what I was putting the eggs I was putting in that basket. You're
so bitter about this NFC South thing going wrong for you, aren't you?
No, but it's just weird that both you guys, Breech, I get, but Brinson, you're just tagging along like you've been hoodwinked and you're joining the Andy Dalton cult. You know what Andy Dalton is.
I said that I wasn't buying the Saints all offseason.
No, but I mean, I would like a little support and push you back against Breech's idiotic theory that
I don't think Andy Dalton's the answer. I just think he's the only option.
Okay, there are four games in. There are how many games left? 14 games, 13 games to go. Can't do the math. Over under, who has more wins and what are the wins?
14? Out of Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston? So
it's probably 4. I'll put 4.5 as the over under for Jameis. Do you want to take more or less for Andy Dalton?
You think Jameis Winston is going to win 5 games the rest of the year?
4. Well, yeah, 5, right? 4.5. I'm just asking, where do you?
I'll take over. I'll say that Dalton has more than 5 wins.
Oh.
Or I say, no, wait. I don't know that.
I'm putting out here. I put it this way. I'm putting Jameis at 4.5. Where do you want to put Andy Dalton's over under at?
Or we put it at starts, not wins.
Well, I mean, we're talking about proficiency, not just being under center.
Right, but I'm saying that my theory is that the Saints might stink.
Okay, well, how many?
I don't want to be thrown back in my face when Andy Dalton doesn't win 5 games because the Saints win 4 games all year. Like that's like.
Well, I'll put it to you this way: over the next 14 games, assume there's a universe.
The Saints win 5 games.
Let's assume there's a universe where Jameis starts the next 14, and another universe where Andy starts the next 14.
Okay.
Who wins the most
Having a
games?
multiverse conversation.
That's right. Who wins? It's like
I didn't
Marvel.
I didn't know you were such a big Marvel guy.
yeah. Which one of these guys is the
I
worst
would take
Marvel
Andy
character
Dalton. I would take Andy Dalton.
to win how many games?
I think I would take Andy also.
6.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Okay, you fell for it.
Ryan, did you watch the game?
Like, you're still like 6 and 7, and they finished.
You fell for the old rope.
7 and 10.
rope
It's not good.
Why is Breech so vehemently defending Andy Dalton?
I'm not defending Andy Dalton. I am saying that he is the better option for the Saints offense. That's not defending it.
You
They
just
said-
said
Bengals are Sunday, October 16th. Bengals at Saints. Who wins? Bengals or Andy Dalton?
Joe
the
Burrow.
Bengals by 7 touchdowns. They
Yes.
know Andy Dalton better than anyone.
That's
but-
the reason. Get out of here.
But I think that Andy Dalton gives the Saints a better chance to win. I mean, besides the fumble he had where Ryan slacked me and said that Andy Dalton needs to retire now. But then he apologized to Andy Dalton because of how well he played in the second half. I mean, they were down
lost to
16
Kirby
to
Cousins.
7, and
He lost to the Spider-Man meme. He lost to Kirk Cousins. I mean, get out
he
of here.
didn't. Their defense did. Dalton led him on 2 touchdown drives, 2 field goal drives, and then got him within 3 inches of pulling off an upset. Which, by the way, we have to mention what's his name, because hitting a 60-yard field goal in London and then turning around and missing with a double doink on a 61-yarder to send it
That
to overtime.
61-yarder looked like it was good from about 68 yards.
Oh my
He
God.
smoked it.
And that he would have been the first kicker in NFL history at multiple 60-yard field goals in a game, but
and first ever in London.
first ever in London.
Instead,
First worldwide kick, worldwide Will. That's going to be his nickname.
That's already
Sorry,
been-
Brinson, you can't have it.
Vikings get the Bears at Dolphins, Cardinals at Commanders. The next 4 games, they are currently 3-1.
My Vikings. They're in my Super Bowl pool.
Vikings feel like very much like a playoff team, even though I don't know that I necessarily would. I just think they're going to get in with the way the wild
They did
cards.
start slow in that game, by the way, and there's probably reasons for concern. But to your original point, there's a lot of parity going on, which is a good thing.
Man, I tell you, there's nothing better than the 9:30 a.m. NFL game when you got to.
Oh, good news, because we have one next Sunday. Do you have a big game to go to? Florida State, NC State. Is that big?
Florida State, yeah, that's great.
I have to memorize the NC State schedule, so I know it's
Go
coherent.
Tar Heels. Yes.
There it is. There it is.
Oh, do you want to hear a funny story about my trip to Clemson?
Only if it's funny.
I think it's funny.
How long does it last? Can you tell at the end of the podcast?
I'll tell it really quickly.
He
So
doesn't know
we're walking
anything.
around the tailgate area and we're going to meet somebody, and we take this turn, and all of a sudden there's like this huge walkway that's like been roped off, and there's like Clemson fans are like 5 or 6 deep on each side of like the rope, and it's where they do the Tiger Walk, where the team gets dropped off on a bus and they walk through and everybody screams, and we're like walking down the middle of the Tiger Walk, like me and 2 of my friends dressed in like, I'm wearing a black state shirt and they're wearing red, and it's like somebody gonna stop us and tell us to leave, and like we walk for a little bit, and nobody did anything. We had a couple beers, so I started going, "Let's go back!" and like screaming, and like both sides of the audience just going, "Boo, boo!" and I was like raising my arms like it was like WWE. It was so delightful. Finally, we get to the end, and somebody goes, "Go Tar Heels!" And I stopped. I turned. I was like, "Oh, you've crossed the line now, pal."
Is that Debo?
I don't know. But
I was hoping you said that your
we
little
walked
walk,
the entire length of this thing, just like harangue, like just like getting like it was, and then of course they
and
did
you
the
got the last laugh because State got.
best. It was
I was hoping you said that the walk ended in the same way that the bro fight in the Arkansas. Ole Miss-
Hey, those are private stories, pal. Not to be. No, we were like, these people are going to take it. These people are going to take.
Wait,
it.
what are you talking about? The Ole Miss fight in the stands?
I didn't tell it on the podcast. I don't think.
No, there was a fight in the Ole Miss stands.
Oh,
and we were all-
never mind. So carry on.
I don't even know about you getting in a fight.
I
You know
went
what I'm
in a
talking
fight.
about, Breach. All the guys wearing the Blazers and the Bama
The
thing.
Ole Miss fraternity fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brinson talked about some fight he got in with a bunch of other Bama bros, and he's like suddenly we don't even know about that fight.
All right, let's move on to the next game.
Can you imagine Brinson in a fight?
I wouldn't.
I
have
cannot.
I was trying to break up a fight. Cowboys 10. Cowboys 25. Commanders 10. The Carson Wentz experiment. Maybe the very reason why Debo has left this podcast, because he can't handle.
Before you go through all the stats and waste everyone's time, because Carson Wentz is terrible, let me put this to you, because as a Steelers fan, I have similar conversations. When fans feel like they know more than coaches and front office folks making decisions about things like the quarterback position, whether it's Mitch Trubisky or Carson Wentz, it's infuriating when those realities inevitably come true. Like, what could you possibly see in Carson Wentz that you would say, you know what, I'm going to trade for this guy. Look, he may be a great guy. I'm just talking about on the field, and he's going to fix our program. I said it in the offseason. I think Taylor Heineke's better than he is. And I've seen nothing to dissuade me of that notion.
Much better than Carson Wentz.
Oh my God, Geno Smith is legit. He's completing 77% of his passes.
Yeah, we didn't have a second, but right.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why fans get so angry. And on top of that, look, Steelers fans have been spoiled, no doubt. Washington fans have not been spoiled. Their owner is a numbnut. He got a motorcade out of the bottom of the Jerry Dome, which is the craziest thing I've heard since I heard Breech talk about Andy Dalton being a Hall of Famer. And I get the frustration coming out of Washington. And there's not going to be any quick fix. I don't know what you do. I just don't know. Maybe you throw my buddy Sam from UNC out there. God, I can't remember. What's Sam's last name? Howell. Sam Howell. Maybe throw Sam Howell out there. Maybe roll Taylor Heineke.
I think they're going to have to. They have to do a full. Either Carson Wentz.
Doesn't matter. I don't care if he has a $4 million guarantee contract for every week for the rest.
I was going to do like snap percentages again because he had that nitty. Remember?
Who cares? Just move on. Stop it. Go ahead.
That's sums it up.
That was a solid rant, Ryan.
Okay, so let's have the not really a hot take, but it's Cooper Rush is not starting when Dak comes back, right?
No, stop it.
Okay, just making sure. Should the Cowboys delay rushing Dak back in order to try and win games with Cooper Rush under center as they've done the last 3 weeks?
I think all three of us had a long discussion about this on last Sunday's podcast after they just beat the Giants, or the Monday night podcast. And we kind of tried to put our finger on when they should let him return.
Yep.
And I think we all agreed that week 6 against the Eagles makes the most sense because there's no reason to rush him back. That is what the Cooper Rush winning games does for you, is that you don't have to rush Dak back. If Cooper Rush had gone 0-3 in these games and the Cowboys were sitting at 0-4, then it's like, holy crap, we have to get Dak Prescott on the field right now. We don't care if his thumb is only halfway sewn on his body right now. We just got to get him back out there because Cooper Rush isn't cutting it. But they're not. They're 3-1. If they lose the Rams, they lose the Rams. You would rather lose and let Dak kill another week than rush him back and have him get hurt against the Rams.
Yeah, Brinson had some crazy theory last week about how he was going to come back like week 5 is what Brinson said. I think that's what Young Record is saying, week 5. I think Breech and I both said week 6. So you busted.
I can't remember. I know most of us said week 6.
There's only 3 of us here.
Oh, let's see if he comes back week 5. I mean, I think I would bring him back like week 8 as long as Cooper Rush is still winning games, like finding ways to win. I would not want to bring him back either against a really good. Zach Martin got hurt today. I can't remember if he came back in or not, but he was.
Brinson, I think you said hold him out till the bye. That's what you do if you were running the team.
But then you were like, "What will Jerry do?" And I said, "Week 5, probably." And you guys were like, "Week 6, week 5 is ridiculous."
Yeah, he's not coming back next week.
He's not coming back.
Yeah,
he should come back in week 6. If they beat the Rams, he ain't coming back in week 6.
The thing is, what if he beats the Rams, and then you're thinking, let's just keep Cooper rushing for the next week, and he beats the Eagles. If they're winning
games, they're going to push Dak back. That is classic Jerry Jones mentality.
I mean, if you're winning games, it's not necessarily, not a terrible idea because we talked about last week. Russ Wilson still doesn't look right, and maybe that's the finger, maybe that's some other stuff. But anyway,
CeeDee Lamb had a fantastic touchdown catch. Great throw by Cooper Rush. He was wide open, but a perfect route by CeeDee Lamb.
And we're 30, by the way. You're right. Sorry to interrupt you, but it ain't like Cooper Rush is putting up Tom Brady numbers. He was 15-27.
Yeah, he's not doing huge numbers, but but Michael Gallup came back, caught a touchdown pass, which was, you could tell it was very much excited CeeDee Lamb and everybody involved there. He came back from this injury, and I think Michael Gallup makes a huge difference for their offense as well. I thought Zeke Elliott had a really long, 31-yard reception. He's like much more explosive this year, and then just defensively, like somebody better hire Dan Quinn as their coach this offseason. I would. I mean, if I were the Panthers, I would hire Dan Quinn in a heartbeat.
If I were the Steelers, I'd hire Dan Quinn to be the offensive coordinator. Next game.
All right. Next up, Seahawks 48.
Yeah, Geno.
Lions 45. Geno Smith is
crushing Debo. I see Debo ain't here to take his medicine.
On fire.
Geno better than.
You want a piece of this?
I don't think Debo's here. He don't want that. He don't want that Geno Smith heat after talking up Carson.
Geno completed 23 of 30 pass attempts, 76.7% for 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He has a 77.3 completion percentage through his first 4 games this season, the highest completion percentage with a minimum of 125 attempts by a quarterback in his first 4 games of a season in NFL history.
He was my player of the game, my player of the day on HQ today. I was dapping up Geno left and right. By the way, this is Geno's full name, which makes him even awesomer. Eugene Cyril Geno Smith III. That is a fantastic lawyer name, and a fantastic quarterback football name.
I mean, Geno Smith has just objectively played better than Russell Wilson this year.
You think there were points in practice like last December or November where the Seahawks players were like, why isn't Geno starting? Because Russell looked so bad last year at the end of the year.
Broken. Geno also rushed for 49 yards too, so he did it with his arms and with his legs. Yay, Geno. By the way, the second best part of this game, DK getting a golf cart ride to the doo-doo room. Did you see that?
Is that what Lamar should have done? That was the only way he was going to make that
Lamar
one time.
waddled out of the
DK even tweeted about it. He's like, hey, man, the little Clint shuffle wasn't going to make it the whole way.
I mean, you must really got to go when you have to take the airport golf cart to get there.
Think of like trying to flag down the cart, and like everyone on the broadcast thinks you have gotten injured, so you have to explain why you got on the cart.
I didn't see was he on the field when it happened, or was it?
No, like slyly left the field. They mentioned they're like, in DK Metcalf is just left in a cart, and you assume if somebody's leaving on a cart that they are injured, and nope, just deuces because I got to take a deuce.
Tom in the chat has a fun fact. Lions are first in points and 32nd in points allowed through 4 games. That checks out. This is a team that we got to keep taking the overs. It was 47 coming into this game, 47 next week. Jamal Williams looks great. Rashad Penny loves playing the Lions. I believe he had 151 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on 17 carries. Had a ton of rushing yards against him last season as well. They got 170 versus the Lions in 2021. He looks like he's starting to get it going. Kenneth Walker didn't do a whole lot. Geno had a rushing touchdown 2. DK Metcalf 149 receiving yards on 7 catches. I don't know that this is about the Seahawks being great offensively or better offensively than we think. I think it's about the Lions defense being bad and the Lions finding ways to lose close games. Seattle sort of had this one and it felt like they had it in did it feel like they had it in hand most of the game? Like they were up 10 points, it felt like throughout like a large portion of the game. And then Detroit, as they do, they cut the lead to, they trim the lead quickly late. I think this is just what the Lions are going to be all season.
Yeah.
A roller coaster ride.
Yeah, but like the game's gonna be fun. They are gonna be like for DFS, for fantasy, they are great. And whoever they're playing is probably gonna score a bunch of points. Are the Seahawks a viable contender in that division?
Yes. Before we talk about the Seahawks, the Lions have 2 first-round picks as well. One coming from the Rams, and it's funny to say this. By the way, Wilson mock draft 2.0 comes out Monday, so look for that.
Ooh, that's exciting.
But it's funny to say this that thinking about doing this mock draft, like the offensive line is really good. The receivers are really good. Amon-Ra St. Brown was out. DJ Shark was out. That didn't help. Hockenson had an 81-yard reception today, almost scored.
Hockenson had 8 catches, 179 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
DeAndre Swift was out, as Breech noted. And they seem to like Jared Goff. So if they draft 2 guys on defense with those first-round picks, maybe we're making the next step. Because I said over the first 3 weeks that this team looked different than last year's team and that they would give up points but not lose the lead. This game was obviously the exception. But to answer your question, yeah, the Seahawks team are in the conversation in that division because, I mean, the Cardinals suck. They beat a dog crap terrible Panthers team today. We don't know what Jimmy G's all about. He's probably not great. And then you have the Rams. Yeah, Seahawks are absolutely alive, which is hilarious because Russell Wilson's not even there. And they fixed the offensive line as soon as he left.
I would think that the Lions, depending on where those 2 picks end up with the Rams and their own pick, will look at a quarterback. This is like the time to look at it because you have
I don't know.
You have easy contract numbers for golf. $10 million in dead cap after next year.
He hasn't been bad though.
What?
He hasn't been bad. Like
he hasn't been bad, but I'm saying they're going to have to get somebody younger.
Why? He's not even 30. I don't think, is he?
No.
Yeah. Fix the defense. He was 26 of 39 with 4 touchdowns. Why would you draft a quarterback?
Seahawks defense sucks too, by the way.
Okay.
Fine, you can go. I don't hate golf. Go for it.
And you
Also, one more note of this game. This was the first ever 48-45
that's
score.
right.
Is this scoregami?
In NFL history, it was a scoregami.
Oh.
The
Also worth noting,
1073rd score, final score in NFL history.
the two clubs combined for 93 points and 1,075 total yards of offense. It marks the second game in NFL history in which two teams combined for at least 90 points and 1,075 total yards of offense, joining a shocker, the Bengals and the Browns in week 2 of the 2007 season.
2007
96 points and 1,085 total yards.
Derek Anderson and Carson Palmer, maybe?
It wasn't Brady Quinn, was it?
No, Brady didn't start in 07
He
because
played in 07.
yeah. That Browns team won 10 games somehow.
Yeah, that's right. They didn't make the playoffs then.
They did not make the playoffs, correct?
Yeah. Let's see, 2000. I'll find it real quick. 51-45. That was Carson Palmer had 401 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns. Derek Anderson had 328 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns. Oh my God, Jamal Lewis ran for 216 yards in that game. Rudy Johnson, $118. Chad Johnson had 209 receiving yards. Braylon Edwards had $146, and Kellen Winslow had 100 as well. Good gracious.
Man, that's a throwback.
I wonder what the total was. I bet the total was 41.5. It went over. Suffice to say.
By the way, I don't want to. I missed this stat earlier, but I just found it. Carson Wentz averaged 4 yards per attempt in the game that they lost on Sunday. It's the third lowest mark in franchise history.
We should start getting back to dog on Carson Wentz. Is that what that was?
I was going through my notes and I saw that one. I somehow missed that steaming pile of a statistic. All right, go ahead.
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, my Eagles and Ryan Steelers. Next. Eagles 29, Jaguars 21. The Jaguars started out hot, jumped all over the Eagles, had them down 14-0, I believe. Yep.
Correct.
And then the Eagles quickly made it 29-14, thanks to some turnovers from Trevor Lawrence and some timely offense by the Philadelphia rushing attack, which featured Miles Sanders, 27 carries, 134 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts was fine. Nothing special. Weather was kind of gross in this one, too. I think Ian was really peppering Philadelphia, so you couldn't, wasn't ideal. Hurts had that pick 6 early on. I just think the thing about the Eagles for me, and I know their schedule is easy, I think the Jaguars are pretty good. The Eagles are like just sort of, I don't know if it's like a flex on, I don't know, they just sort of seem to have they don't have a ton of variance to them. They're very steady, right? Does that make sense?
No, I think so. And the opposite of steady is a quarterback who throws an interception and loses 4 fumbles, which is Trevor Lawrence.
Sure.
And that had a lot to do with the outcome as well. And yeah, sure, he can blame the weather, and Trevor Lawrence is going to be fine and all that. That had an impact in how things played out. Jalen only threw the ball 25 times, and Trevor threw the ball 23 times. You noted that Miles Sanders had a huge game, and every time I looked up, he seemed to be scoring. And the Eagles defense sort of picked up the slack. I think that Jalen bounced back nicely after that pick 6 on the first series to Andre Cisco. Shout out Syracuse. And I think you're right. I think the Jaguars are a good football team. And when they were at 14-0, I was like, oh my God, this team's going to be 3-1, and Brinson's going to have to be talking about how he was right to pick them to win the division. They're still very much in the mix to win the division. And the freak occurrence of Trevor Lawrence losing all those fumbles, I don't think that's sustainable. So I think there's very much a reason for optimism with Jacksonville. And of course, the Eagles are 4-0, and they are, to your point, at least anecdotally, I'll see what Football Outsider says in a second, seem to be even Steven. Like there's not a lot of variation in terms of the way they play.
Well, this is one of those things too, where like, what would happen if this game was played in dry weather? Because I doubt Trevor Lawrence fumbles the ball 4 times. If it's not pouring down rain, I mean, it was a torrential downpour, and I think it was the most fumbles by any player in NFL game since at least 1991, with Trevor Lawrence losing 4 fumbles. And the thing was, they were all big, because the first one, you guys mentioned that that Jacksonville went up 14-0, and it felt like the Eagles got not desperate. They were like, yeah, we can't let this team get up by any more points, because near the end of the first quarter, they had a 4th and 3 at Jacksonville's 40-yard line, and they're thinking, we're going for this because that's the only thing to do. We're not punting from here. We're down 14-0. They didn't get it. So then when Jacksonville got the stop, it really felt like, oh my God, maybe the Jags can put the nail in the coffin here and like go up 21-0. But instead, Trevor Lawrence fumbles it. Philadelphia scores a few plays later. It's 14-7. Another 2 possessions later, Trevor Lawrence fumbles it. The Eagles score a few plays later. They're ahead. 14-0 deficit never happened. So it just felt like Jacksonville kept shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a young team on the road against maybe like the team with the best record in football and a good defense in bad weather conditions, and it's okay.
Interestingly, Football Outsiders has the Eagles variance as literally middle of the pack. They're 17th.
Oh,
in terms of consistency for one week to the next. But they don't feel like that. They feel like a much more consistent team.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess maybe that's probably part and parcel of this right here, how they score. They have a negative 14-point differential in the first quarter, a plus 71-point differential in the second quarter, a plus 7-point differential in the third quarter, and a minus 20-point differential in the fourth quarter. They've scored 7 points in the first quarter, 85 in the second, 14 in the third, and 9 in the fourth. I believe they've scored their first fourth quarter points today, right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, some of that is because the Eagles are, you've got a lead. You're sort of trying to, shorten the game, eat up clock, et cetera, et cetera. The slow start, I think, maybe even more concerning. Billy, now that Debo's not here, right? Would you like to pop on audio or video and give your takes on the Eagles while I go?
I mean, it was nice to see because finally we got a test, right? Like we've been blowing out a lot of teams, getting up on them early and kind of taking advantage of that. But it was kind of nice to see that they could come from behind and win and kind of settle down. Even seeing Jalen throw that early interception and that could rattle a quarterback, especially he's young, it's only his second year really being a true starter. Seeing him take over the game in bad inclement weather was really nice to see and really good for his development going forward. But Breech, you talking about, Jaguars shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, those were forced turnovers. Those weren't, you could say that the one fumble was necessarily, Trevor Lawrence just dropping the ball, but the other 2 fumbles were forced. So, at the end of the day, you have to give it up to the Eagles defensive line, which played very well. It's probably one of the best defense, if not the best defensive line in the NFL right now. So, and shout out to Hassan Reddick, Philly guy, Temple made, shout out to him. But I thought you were a little tripping for that one.
All right,
the Eagles were definitely the better team in this game. I think that like Billy just said, to see them go down, because that was the thought. Like, what's going to happen when they get punched in the mouth or they make a mistake? And they weren't even phased. They fell down 14-0, came right back and had the lead before halftime. So that's exactly what you want to see from a team that could be a championship caliber team.
Oh, look at that. Brinson's back on the DK bus. Yeah, you missed Billy slap Brinson Breech around for not being pro.
He missed! He missed! Oh, and he may have pulled a hand.
Billy said, I need to give the Eagles defense more credit for forcing the fumbles on Trevor Lawrence.
Billy's been on this podcast 15 minutes, and Breech is always already backing down like he's afraid of him.
I didn't back down.
Personally, I wouldn't take this level of disrespect.
Yeah, Billy didn't take it.
I'm not using the bathroom. I was going to put some ice in my glass.
That's what they all say.
You keep your liquor in the bathroom?
Do you go to the bathroom in your glass?
Our buddy Joe Moose is in the comments making Brinson Dookie cart jokes. So
put in the where's the Musso comment up there about, he said, who told Wilson mixing greens was a good idea? I might have to go audio only.
Well, I'm trying to rep the brand here.
Oh, I guess you're trying to tell everybody you're American too, huh? With a USA hat. Who do you think you are?
It's a USA soccer hat.
I'm just kidding. I know.
We don't have a soccer team.
Brinson hates the U.S. is what I got from that. All right, what's next? Good job, Billy. Breech next week. Don't back down from Billy if he gives you the business.
Well, he's new to the show. I don't want to get off to a bad start with him. Like,
hey, Breech, who did your team?
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Yeah,
Breech.
don't be scared.
What, Brinson?
Who did your team beat last week? What pathetic team did you?
The Miami Dolphins? That team?
Oh no! So this was this week.
You mean week 3? The New York Jets.
A horrible football team, right?
Truly.
They didn't even score a touchdown.
It would be tough to lose to them.
No, I don't think anyone can lose to him.
You know who picked him to win this week?
Did you really?
Yeah. Have you seen the Steelers play?
I have. They're not very good. And they lost on Kenny Pickett Day, 24-20 to the New York Jets. The Steelers fall to 1-3. Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's here, presumably to stay. Mitchell Trubisky benched.
Don't presume. Tomlin said after the game, I haven't made any decisions.
Okay. Trubisky benched after going 7-13 for 84 yards and 1 interception. Kenny Pickett goes 10-13. He actually didn't throw a single incompletion, technically.
No, he was
one of his passes hit the ground.
13 for 13.
10-13 with 120 yards and 3 picks for Kenny Pickett.
So he came in, did a quarterback. Here's the most hilarious thing about the Kenny Pickett era. Let me back up by saying this. Tomlin said all week that, Trubisky's getting better. He's going to start. Here's the thing. If you know you're going to Kenny Pickett because Mitch Trubisky sucks, let him play the entire game to get some reps. Because guess what? Guess what's coming up? The Bills, the Bucs, the Dolphins, the Eagles, and then you get your bye. How about you let Kenny Pickett go out there and wing it around against what's supposed to be a terrible Jets team and get some confidence before you roll him out there against the Bills next week, where he's going to get sacked 5,000 times, number one. Number two, he came in, the first 5 plays, they ran the ball in some form. The most hilarious part was one of those plays was a QB sneak. He did 2 quarterback sneaks, including scoring a touchdown in a quarter of work. Big Ben did probably 2 quarterback sneaks in 20 years of football.
Maybe 2.
So suddenly something's changed where the quarterback sneak is a viable option, given that Jacoby Brissett and Tom Brady and Drew Brees can always convert it. Whatever.
Big Ben hated QB sneaks, and he just wouldn't do them.
Who knows? There's any number of reasons to be curious as to why this offense.
Or the Jets weren't ready for a QB sneak because they're like, Steelers haven't run one in 27 years. There's no way it's going to happen.
So on the 5th play, they throw the ball down the field. Kenny throws a bomb in the middle of the field. Mr. Trubisky refuses to throw the ball in the middle of the field. So that's an upgrade. But he throws it about 4 seconds too late into double coverage. Chase Claypool, who's 6'4", looked like he was John Breech out there in terms of his effort to go up and get the ball. He jumped his vertical. Let's assume his vertical is 35. It may be higher than that. His vertical was probably 1.
And he had his hand. He looked like me jumping.
He had his hands at his waist where he tried to catch it. So clearly,
so he had my height with Brinson's vertical.
Yeah,
no, my height with your vertical.
Either way, results predictable. INT. So
and it was a bad balance. Like it wasn't. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like a great decision or a great throw, but it was like Claypool's hands got on it, but then the cornerback kind of got it and popped it up in the safety.
It was a combination of crappiness from the Steelers that led to the interception. Second interception, whatever. He threw it late to the sidelines. It got tipped. Third interception was the Hail Mary at the end of the game. Kenny Pickett was fine. But I'm going to tell you, I don't think anything's going to magically change with that schedule I just read out to you. I don't know why Tomlin waited. Look at who's he fooling? Mr. Trubisky was pissed off after the game, and that's fine. He didn't play well enough to keep his job, and that's no surprise. He is who he is. The defense got steamrolled. Zach Wilson's numbers weren't great, but his team loves him. I'll tell you that, man. Those guys love Zach Wilson, which is sort of funny because he looks like the most broy bro ever. But his first game of the season, because he had the knee injury in preseason, made some throws on that last drive that got him into the end zone. Brees Hall played well, yada, yada, yada.
It felt like, I don't know how, maybe this sounds stupid in 3 weeks, like a lot of things we say, but it did feel like Zach Wilson's fourth quarter. You see the numbers here. He's 8-24 for 124 yards, 5.2 yards per attempt, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks in the first 3 quarters. Fourth quarter, 10-12, 128, 10.7 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Sort of like kind of letting it, like, this happens all the time. You're cutting it loose. You're coming back. You're not thinking as much and just more like playing and throwing. And it did feel like maybe a bit of a turning point for him, just in terms of if he can string these kind of performances together and win some games, then the Jets are there's going to be a lot more patience around the Jets organization. They need that if they are correctly building. Now, whether or not they are correctly building remains to be seen.
No, that's a huge thing. That's right. Because with their first round pick, do you have to get another quarterback or can you address other needs?
Right.
I had them addressing the defense in the first round of this latest mock draft.
Unless they fire Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, I think it's too early to go quarterback.
No, just like Tua. If he came out here and threw 50 interceptions and 2 touchdowns, you're moving on. But he's not, and he looked good. And I think the most embarrassing part of this game for the Steelers isn't that last drive. Zach's a top 5 pick, and he's capable of doing that. It's the fact that their first touchdown that the Jets scored was on the Philly special, and Zach Wilson caught a touchdown pass from Brandon Berrios.
First Jets quarterback in franchise history to catch a touchdown.
Oh,
I mean, Wilson, if you watch this whole game, when the
I
Steelers
didn't,
went up,
by the way, but go ahead.
okay, well, looking at his numbers, imagine being there and the Steelers go up 20-10 in the fourth quarter, and based on what Zach Wilson had done the first three quarters, there was no indication
Right.
that the Jets could have possibly even come remotely close to making a comeback. And then here we are, Zach Wilson turning into Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter with these insane numbers, throwing for 128 yards and everything you guys just said. So that's a great building block. When you have a guy who missed the first 3 weeks of the season, comes out, makes his debut, looks like dog doo-doo, to quote Ryan, through the first three quarters, and then just looks unstoppable the fourth quarter. That's what you want to see. If you're the Jets, you got to feel pretty good about yourself right now and about what Zach Wilson can do going forward.
What do you think about Minka Fitzpatrick saying after the game? We got to quit losing to these teams. We know we're better than. Are they? I don't know if they're better than the Jets. The scoreboard said obviously they're not, but personnel wise, coaching wise, I've seen nothing this season, including the Week 1 miracle win over the Bengals, which in hindsight is almost as crazy as that Bills win over the win over the Bills last year's Week 1. This team sucks. Like they're one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Yikes, Ryan. You don't think Mike Tomlin's going to keep his streak alive without a losing season?
Well, I put that to you not as a rhetorical question, but as to hopefully elicit a response. They're bottom 5. Name 5 teams worse than them.
They beat the Texans.
They probably lose 3 of the next 4 games, right?
3 of the next 4. Who they beating?
Or all 4.
The Dolphins.
Imagine they win against the Bengals in Week 1.
I don't know why I'm suggesting that. Yeah.
Imagine they beat the Bengals in Week 1 and don't win another game the rest of the season.
I feel like there's a chance that they steal one of these 4 games, but
why? What makes you think
3
that?
or 4 on the road? Yeah. All right, fine. So they're 1-7.
Here's the thing, to follow up on Breech's point. Let's assume they win 3 games instead of 1. Either way, now you're going to be in a situation where presumably Kenny Pickett continues to start, to use your word presumably, even though what Mike Tomlin said. Let's say he continues to start and he's average. Now you're going to be in a position, if you have a top 3 pick, where you could get a quarterback in this class that is way better than any quarterback in last year's class, including Kenny Pickett, or you can go in another direction. Now, it might be a good situation if you're fine with Kenny, and maybe Kenny's going to be okay, where you can trade down. This will be a draft where teams will want to trade up for a quarterback. So maybe you get some draft capital that way. But
how do you think, maybe we talked about this before, but do you think that the GM situation is such that like Omar Khan would be allowed to draft immediately someone to replace the guy that Kevin Colbert drafted on the way out of town?
Not unless Mike Tomlin is on board with it. I don't think there's a situation where that's going to happen. Like, you think Omar Khan's going to be able to fire? Let's say he wanted to fire Mike Tomlin for whatever reason.
No, he's not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he could say he'd be better off asking.
Mike Tomlin's more likely to get him fired than he is.
Thank you. Yes, that's right.
All right. Yeah, a lot of tough 4 weeks coming up for the Steelers. 1-7 would be a weird spot for Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, Wisconsin coach.
What was he last year? USC? Was that where he was getting mad about?
He's like, you ask Andy Reid about that? Do you? He's like, because I had the same number of titles and I've been especially the same number of wins.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, every team has a rough patch, and the Steelers, this is their rough patch, and it's hard to watch.
Hey, look, it's probably shouldn't be surprising that the Patriots and the Steelers, who have had these incredible quarterback runs, are now finding themselves. Hey, welcome to the normal reality of NFL football, guys.
The Patriots almost.
Speaking
still
of which. Speaking of whom? Which? Packers 27, Patriots 24.
Bailey Zappi.
Packers saves every Survivor League on the planet because everyone had the Packers this week.
It's plus 9.5. I mean, I have covering that number.
Patriots fall to 1-3 after losing in overtime. They had multiple chances to take this game. We're up 24-17 in the fourth quarter. Aaron Rodgers marched down the field and got a touchdown pass. Bailey Zappi, playing for Brian Hoyer, played pretty good.
Yeah, it was not still a whole bunch.
Well, of course not. He's just like a 6th-round pick playing in like.
It's on your third-string quarterback, and you go toe-to-toe with the Packers for 4 quarters. I'd say that's pretty impressive.
Well, I think if we're going to be honest, for people who actually watched the game and took fastidious notes, the Patriots were running all up.
Yes.
the Packers' business. I mean, Bailey Zappi was 10 of 15. They did not want him to throw the ball the first time he dropped back. It was a strip sack. He did
and the throws he was making were like clearly like designed sort of shot plays where he was floating it like as high as possible to make sure it wasn't picked. And like
when I watched
no Zappi on the ball.
Right. When I watched him at Western Kentucky and at the Senior Bowl, I kept coming back to this guy's Duck Hodges. Like he doesn't have a good arm. He throws for 1 trillion yards in college, and he's one of those sort of, those. I don't know if it's air raid offense he played in, but one of those aired out quarterbacks in college that drops back 50 times and completes 45 passes.
In Western Kentucky Mac?
I can't remember.
No, I think maybe there was Sun Belt.
Yeah, Fun Belt. Yeah, either way,
Yeah, it's a wide open offense, and he slung the ball around in much the same way Duck Hodges did. But look, man, 10 to 15, 99 yards and that touchdown, no interception. I think he did have that one
Conference USA, excuse me.
Yeah. But the running game was the reason they were in that thing, and the defense. And by the way, look, Bailey Zappi wasn't a first-round pick, but he was a rookie who contributed. Also contributing, I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure, Marcus Jones, a draft pick, a day 3 guy for the Patriots, did well as a returner. Jack Jones, the rookie out of Arizona State, had the pick 6 against Aaron Rodgers. And then, of course, Bailey Zappi played. So, and Cole Strange started. Like, he's one of their best players already along that offensive line, the first-round pick that had everyone up in arms back in late April. So, I think the draft had a lot to do with that success today. They don't even have Tyquan Thornton out there. But I think the other issue is you can't expect to win with Bailey Zappi or even probably Brian Hoyer. But they did as well as they could, all things considered, with Mac Jones being out. Breech, do they win this game if Mac Jones is playing?
Not if Mac Jones is hurt.
No.
Yeah, is he playing his bum ankles? Are you 100%?
100%.
I feel like if he's 100%, probably. I think the Packers were maybe caught off guard. I don't want to say they overlooked the Patriots but that's what it felt like.
They're going to London next week. Like you got a 10 point, you're a double-digit favorite at home against a wounded duck Patriots team, knowing that you're going on an international travel in 7 days. Like I could see a little bit of a look ahead there.
Florio mentioned this in a tweet. I think they probably wrote about it, but he said whoever the Patriots get signed to play quarterback, if Mac can't play and if Brian Hoyer's still out with a concussion, they better have the passport because you got to be able to go overseas right quick. So that's going to be a contingency for whoever could be their next quarterback.
The Patriots aren't traveling.
Oh, who'd you say was traveling?
The Packers.
Who are they playing?
They play somebody on Sunday morning.
Oh, maybe the team they're playing was the one that he wrote about. I thought it was
it's the Giants.
Giants.
Oh, that's
the Giants.
Okay.
Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. That's what it was. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So
Vikings-Saints, Giants, Packers 1-3 against the spread.
By the way, Billy's feeling himself, the Eagles fan. He just put this comment into the chat. Is there a difference between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi? Billy, you need to.
I mean,
check yourself.
Mac Jones has not been good this year, but
come on now.
When he's healthy, he's better than Bailey Zappi.
What if Bailey Zappi wins 6 Super Bowls for Belichick? And we have to look back in this podcast, and Brinson's quote is just all over the internet for years.
That would be amazing. I was like, ooh, Bailey, I kind of want Bailey Zappi to win. Like, now look, Lions at home, at Browns, Bears at home, at Jets, Colts at home, bye, Jets at home. This is where Bill Belichick has to
stack some wins.
You better go be the greatest coach of all time and just take some wins from bad teams. Because 1-3, where they are right now.
I wonder if Mac will play next week. Apparently, he was telling teammates this week he was going to play. It's hard to play in a high ankle sprain, no matter. Way. Right. You don't think next week either?
No.
Okay.
If you're out there and you can't move around, it takes away part of what you can do as a quarterback. Like he's not Tom Brady who can just spot where he wants to throw it in 1.2 seconds and sling it.
I think
if you're Belichick, and I'm not saying nothing's a free win for this point for the Patriots, but you do feel like you can cook a plan with the run game and your defense against Jared Goff and potentially.
Well, the problem is that the Lions can score points. It's unclear if the Patriots can score a lot of points.
Everyone can score. Everyone can score against the Lions.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if Bailey Zappi can.
Yeah, I think the Patriots will be able to run on the Lions.
Yeah.
By the way, also worth noting, I mean, we talk about, or I was anyway, talking about how good the Patriots defense was, and they kept in that game, and I think that's true. But Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon still went for 183 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
And by the way, if Romeo Dubson dropped that freaking ball in the end zone at the end of the fourth quarter, they were not having this conversation.
And they just kept chipping away. Like, I don't think the Packers had a run of more than 20 yards. It was just, they kept running it, kept getting 3, 4, 5 yards per carry, and there was nothing New England could do. And I bet that frustrated the hell out of Belichick.
I think it is worth noting that it feels like the Packers receiving core is kind of coming along.
You're getting better. Yeah, I think so.
Like Romeo Doubs is playing pretty well. That drop is tough. Like you got to hold on to that. But I mean, he
did the hard part, and then he went to the ground and dropped it.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, right. But I'm just saying he made the catch. Like it's not like that Christian Watson dropped in week 1.
God.
Watson had a touchdown catch, but it got called back for holding maybe. And then Alan Lazard over 100 had 116 receiving yards in this game as well. Packers are they're traveling. Okay. Raiders 32, Broncos 23. Josh McDaniels gets his first win. I couldn't help but notice that after he took a knee, Derek Carr, I'm sure there's video of him doing this somewhere because I know what he was doing. And it's fine. He usually you see somebody flick the ball to whatever. He held the ball and you could tell he's running around make sure Josh gets the ball for his first win here.
Oh,
Which is fine. Normal.
Back on hating the Derek Carr thing now?
No, I'm just saying.
I'm going to give you the same advice that Derek Carr gave Russell Wilson when he signed his shirt and gave it to Russ after the game. Keep Jesus first, Brinson.
Do you say that?
You're already on his jersey.
Are you really?
Yeah. That's some
cool.
words you could live by. Here's the thing that before we
settle down,
Brinson lives by the motto of keep Brinson first.
Yeah, true that. Before we talk about the team that won, and I'm glad they won, if you were just watching this game on a black and white television, which used to be a thing, I'm sure you guys know what that is, and didn't know who was who, you would be convinced that the Raiders were the much better team that was 2-1 coming into this game, and the way the Broncos played, that they're a craptastic football team. Last year, the Broncos were one of the least penalized teams in the league. Unsurprisingly, after 7 penalties on Sunday, they remain one of the most penalized teams. And I'll give you 2 words as to why that might be.
Nathaniel Hackett.
Those are the 2 words.
By the way, it sounds like Javonte Williams' season might be over. Or at least
they fear it's a serious knee injury. Randy Gregory left with a knee injury as well. So those are obviously concerns. Again, Russ Wilson looks like Geno Smith prior to this season, 17 of 25. He had a nice touchdown pass late in the game to KJ Hamler. Oh, actually, KJ didn't get in, got down to the 1. That was KJ's first catch of the season. Well, here's what I feel good about. I wasn't convinced the Broncos were going to be good before the season just because of the transition. Little did I know about the Nathaniel Hackett factor, which is it's a real thing, my man. And Nathaniel Hackett, I'm not even joking. I don't want anyone to lose their job, but it's hard to make the case that he's making this team better.
The Nathaniel Hackett factor has single-handedly made me regret my Broncos Super Bowl pick. Not even how bad the pick was, but
only
every
4 weeks.
Every 4 weeks in, and they're 2-2, which isn't even that bad, but there is at least 8 things per game that has you scratching your head and wondering what the heck they're doing. And then on top of Nathaniel Hackett, who knew that Melvin Gordon was just going to have back-breaking fumbles every single week? I mean, we're talking about
this season now.
And one of them against the Seahawks at the 1-yard line when you're looking at taking the lead in a close game. And then this game, you're in a 10-10 tie, and you fumble it, and the Raiders return it for a touchdown, and now you're trailing 16-10. And when your offense is that bad, you can't afford to let the other team's defense score points. It was just unbelievable. I actually thought, besides that fumble return touchdown, the Broncos' offense looked the most competent it's looked all season in the first half.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, they got a touchdown near the end, which was kind of, I don't want to say garbage time, but they were down 2 scores, and it happened late. And they did get the ball back. So it wasn't like true garbage time, but they looked okay in the first half.
I mean, they had 3 drives in the third quarter where they went 5 plays, 12 yards, 3 plays, -4 yards, 3 plays, -1 yard, punt. That's second half adjustments on them. That's pretty bad. And yeah, Hackett is a problem. The Raiders had 240 rushing yards in the first 3 games, had 212 on Sunday, 5.6 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns.
Jacobs went off.
Josh Jacobs did go off, and he was like the chalkiest chalk in DFS, and I didn't eat the chalk, and so I didn't win anything. The Raiders' schedule is such that they're at Kansas City in week 5 on Monday Night Football, which, good luck with that. Then they're bye, but then they get Houston, at the Saints, at the Jaguars, the Colts, at the Broncos, at the Seahawks. Like, that's a pretty good stretch of winnable games where maybe they can. I think they're probably toast, but
they're more likely to make the playoffs than the Broncos. I feel very safe in saying that.
Yeah.
Wilson, why would you have to say that?
Do you think who's more likely to make the playoffs in your mind, Breech?
I'm going to stick with the Broncos.
By the way, you mentioned it in passing. I don't think you mentioned the actual date. Do you remember do you know the date, the last time that Josh McDaniels won a football game as a head coach?
It's 2010.
November 2010.
November 2010.
Almost 12 years ago.
I was in my 30s.
Baker Mayfield,
before I knew you guys.
We're getting a lot of I think he had a lot of passes blocked down. Huge stretch these next 4 weeks for the Broncos. Colts at home, at the Chargers, Jets at home, at the Jaguars, but that's in England.
I'm gonna say they go 1-3.
No.
If they go 1-3, it's adios breach amigo.
I'll say 2-2.
That's still adios breach amigo.
No, that's not adios anything. If they're 4-4 going to their bye, they're fine.
Are they?
Fine, but you're
okay. Fine. They're not fine.
It's weird. They've won 2 games they should have lost and lost 2 games they should have won.
And it's going to even out where they're going to lose everything.
It's nice to win this game. They did. Yeah, they're just.
A little Rocky throwback.
Billy's been doing more work than Debo ever done on this podcast.
I know.
Oh my god. Debo's retired. He's on an island somewhere sipping Mai Tais.
All right. Anything else on Raiders Broncos?
Nope.
Okay. This podcast is moving fast. Let's see how we can screw it up. Chargers 34, Texans 24. The Texans remain the last winless team in football. A big time flex by the Chargers on these guys. They were up 21-0 with 10 minutes to go in the second quarter. After losing Rashawn Slater, after they were missing Keenan Allen this game, and of course Justin Herbert still banged up. 27-39 feels like too many passes for a game you dominated, but whatever. 340 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Austin Eckler caught one. Gerald Everett caught one. Mike Williams had a big game. Davis Mills, uneven game. Dameon Pierce, huge game. 14-30, 14 carries, 131 yards and a touchdown, including a 75-yard touchdown. Texans feel like I know they're 0-3-1, but I don't feel like I feel like the Texans are about where they should be.
Just like last year with David Culley, they played. I said it last year at the time that the Texans and the Lions played so much harder for their coaches than the Jaguars did for Urban Meyer, and that certainly panned out. Texans fired David Culley, hired Lovie Smith. I feel like they're playing hard for Lovie Smith too, and Lovie Smith is taking more chances than he used to, going for it on 4th down. They made that big comeback, fell short against the Chargers. Davis Mills threw an interception, I think on his 3rd pass.
Yeah, they cut it to 27-24.
So there's reasons for optimism. This team isn't stacked with playmakers. I do wonder what's going to happen if they have a top 5 pick. Do you go with Davis Mills for year 3? I sort of think you do if he continues to progress, or do you draft a quarterback, which, obviously every team has to consider once you get down that stretch. But that's a ways off. That's 7 months away. But I think Davis.
And let's see how these quarterbacks, end up slotting out too. Like you could get there and you have the top overall pick. You're like, we're just taking Will Anderson because he's the best player.
No, that's. I think there's going to be a lot of QB talk, much more so than last year. Thank God.
Well,
but anyway,
of course, yeah.
I think that you stick with Davis Mills. He's been.
If you're the number 1 overall pick, would you go? Bryce Young's probably your guy today, right?
No, a lot of teams are concerned about the size.
Okay, so who's your guy?
But this is going to be controversial to media folks. It's going to be, I think, Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are going to be guys that are going to get talked up.
Okay, I can see that.
So, yeah, no, we'll see. We'll see. But Will Anderson is like Chase Young. He's like Aiden Hutchinson. He's like Kayvon Thibodeau. He's a
And I guess I just think with like Levis, by the way, who fumbled several times against. Ole Miss.
that offensive line sucks for
Yeah, of course.
Kentucky.
I'm
But
just
yeah,
saying, like with like
he didn't play
Levis
well.
and with any of these guys, like there's none of them as of right now are like necessarily definitely better than Davis Mills at the next level. So I think maybe
Yeah, and Davis Mills is young. He didn't play a lot at Stanford, so I think that's fair. Yeah, and we said, Prisco and I both said this last year. Davis came out last year instead of the year before. He'd have been the first quarterback taken, so and a first-round pick.
Chargers, Chargers season back off of life support.
Yeah, I don't know who played left tackle today. I didn't check into that, but if they get that sorted out, and you're not going to be able to replace Rashawn Slater, obviously, but but duct tape piecemeal way that helps. Justin Herbert, from what I saw, was moving around pretty well. He didn't look to be favoring the ribs as much as he was last week. Yeah, they're back in it.
Broncos and Seahawks at Browns, Broncos and Seahawks next 3 weeks before their bye, and then they're at Atlanta. So they could rip off a couple of wins here. And
They should be 3-1 in those games. We'll see.
I would back the Chargers over the. Somebody says Salyer. He played great. There you go.
Oh yeah, Jamari Salyer.
Jamari Salyer, the rookie out of Georgia. Great. That's fantastic. Wonderful.
That's like best case scenario for the Chargers.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they still didn't have Keenan Allen out there, and Herbert just finds everybody else. Hey, there's Mike Williams, 120 yards. Austin Eckler has a huge game. It was just one of those.
Gerald Everett had 61 yards at the tight end position and a nice touchdown. So
there was just no way the Texans offense was going to keep up if the Chargers showed any firepower.
I feel like the Browns is a
depressing game.
Oh, speaking of the Browns, they lost to the Falcons.
Oh my God.
Falcons 23, Browns 20.
Arthur Smith subtweeting this podcast with that victory.
What's that?
Arthur Smith subtweeting this podcast with that victory.
Did he subtweet it?
No, the fact that they won because we've sort of been dumping on them and Arthur.
I actually picked them to win this game.
All right, go ahead.
Falcons tied for first in the
what?
Yeah, I think actually the Browns are tied. The Browns and Falcons are both in first after falling and climbing to 2-2. Marcus Mariota 7 of 19 for 139 yards. Sure, that's how you win a football game.
Every one of those completions went for at least 10 yards.
That'll help.
That's called efficient.
That is called highly efficient.
They jumped out to a 10-0 lead. The Browns came back and took a 13-10, and then the Falcons answered it as well with was it Caleb Huntley? Scott Hansen was like completely butchered his name. It was like,
Oh yeah, that went because Cordero Patterson was getting beat up because he was banged up, and Caleb Huntley.
Yeah. Several Younghoe Koo field goals. Cordero Patterson also had a touchdown run. Nick Chubb was awesome on the ground. Jacoby Brissett was meh. It wasn't a thrilling game, for being honest. It was a good game because it was really close and it kept going back and forth, but it wasn't like a high level NFL football game. But look, kudos to the Falcons.
I thought the Browns coaching staff had a meltdown in this game. Number one, the first possession, opening possession of the game, they drive right down the field. They have a 4th and goal from the 4, not like from the 1 or the 2. They decide to go for it. They don't get it. So boom, you get 0 points on your opening possession. You lose, and then the Falcons get the ball and score, and you lose all your momentum. And then at the end of the game, the Browns are down 23-20. They have the ball with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. Plenty of time to move the ball. You don't have to do anything. You can basically stay in your normal offense because all you need is a field goal to tie. And, if you want to get the touchdown, go for the win, go for it. So what do the Browns do? Well, they're the Browns. So on this drive, they ran 9 plays, 8 of them were passes. Who do you think had more success on Sunday, Jacoby Brissett or Nick Chubb?
Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb literally averaged 6 yards per carry. And instead of letting him have the ball at all on that drive, they called a pass on 89 plays. It was just insane.
Actually, averaged 6.21 yards per carry.
I said over 6 yards. That's over 6 yards.
I was helping your stat. You said literally 6 yards.
Touching.
They didn't give it to Chubb.
One last thing before we move on. Tyler Algier, the rookie out of BYU, big game, 10 carries, 84 yards. I was talking him up in the preseason.
I like that kid.
Yeah, it reminds me of James Conner in terms of the way he runs, and saw a little bit of that today once Cordero went down. So
Kyle Pitts is non-existent.
yeah, he had one catch for 25 yards. Of course,
Did anyone ask Arthur Smith about that?
no,
No,
Like
he
they
was
did. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
a couple weeks ago I think, when he
yeah.
stormed off.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right. Giants 20, Bears 12. God, there's some bad games.
Oh
today.
yeah. I actually watched this game on my third screen. That's right, I have 3 screens, guys. My iPad.
What?
I don't know if you want to set it up or not. Here's the thing. If you were just watching without the scoreboard, you're like, oh my God, the Giants are winning this game 5,000-0. This game was close throughout. The Giants came into this game with 3 sacks. In the first half, they had 5 sacks at Justin Fields, which should give you some indication of why we still have no idea if Justin Fields is any good, because he spends most Sundays running for his life.
22 pass attempts, though. I believe that's a season high.
Daniel Jones was 8 of 13. Again, these numbers of the quarterbacks look like a bunch of high school games in run only leagues. But Daniel Jones,
Barkley is back.
He's 100% back. Daniel Jones scored 2 touchdowns, and they were both the exact same play, which makes you wonder what Matt Eberflus is a defensive guy, right?
Yes.
It was a naked bootleg to the right,
and he strolled in on both of them
for 20 yards, and he moonwalked into
Maybe
the
the
left
first
on
one
the
he
other
was
one.
like, had like some pressure, but he like didn't get
He was like, he
touched.
couldn't believe he was that wide open. He thought he was going to get trucked or something. And then the next one, he's like doing cartwheels. That was embarrassing. And then he hurt his ankle. Tyrod Taylor came in and he scrambled and got knocked. It looked like he may have been concussed. He came out, and then they were running Wildcat with Saquon, which was sort of fun.
And Saquon got hurt.
Oh, I didn't know that. But
Yeah, Saquon was on the sidelines, but Tyrod Taylor came back in, and they were running Matt Breida.
Tyrod came back in? Are you sure?
No.
Okay, I'm not sure if he came back in, because I think Tyrod went to the tent, and then I think he left. Daniel Jones was in for a while too.
Well, I mean, they were showing Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley on the sideline, and I think Tyrod Taylor was in there.
Okay, that might have been after Daniel got hurt and before Tyrod got presumably concussed. Anyway, here's a fun fact: Kenny Golladay 1 target, 0 zeros everywhere else.
Maybe Daniel Jones is back in.
Yeah, he came in. He was lined up at wide receiver when they were running a lot of the Wildcat towards the end of that game.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think this Bears team, it's hard to tell if they're any good. They're Kyler Gordon, their first pick, I think, is second rounder.
I think it's pretty easy to tell. They're not very good.
No, I was going to say Kyler Gordon, their rookie second round pick, I think, had some moments where he played well. Jaquan Brisker played well, their other rookie second round pick. Bayless Jones, who they drafted to give Justin Fields some help at wide receiver, absolutely destroyed a punt, muffed it, and that turned the ball over, and that also sort of changed the direction of that game. But yeah, the Bears are terrible. I think the Steelers, if the Steelers played the Bears 10 times, they would win 5.5 of those games.
Are the Giants good?
They're 3-1. Everyone loves Brian Daboll. We talk about chemistry and how people buy in. I mentioned Zach Wilson.
I think the coaching is clearly better.
You are what your record says you are.
Well, the
Bill
Bears are
Parcells.
too, so.
Yes.
I mean, like, if you're picking who makes the playoffs between the Giants or the Bears, it's the Giants easily.
Yeah.
Giants have a tougher division, I think, somehow.
All right, Giants or the Cowboys?
Cowboys.
I'm
going to take the Giants.
The Giants already lost to the Cowboys once.
Yeah, but they were just getting warmed up. They should have won that game.
Super rush Cowboys.
Okay.
We'll find out if the Giants are for real. They've got an interesting schedule coming up. They got the Packers and the Ravens in the next 2 weeks.
5-1, baby.
Right. 3-3, and suddenly, and like you got blown out twice, and suddenly it changes the tenor of your.
Suddenly you're the Denver Broncos is what you're saying?
Yeah.
No offense, Breech. All right, what's that?
Yeah. That's 3 or 4 at Packers, Ravens, at Packers in London, Ravens with no bye week on the at home.
And the quarterback situation is unresolved because of the injuries. That's also important.
At Jacksonville, at Seattle, which are winnable games, but those are 2 like so you're going from London to New Jersey to Jacksonville to Seattle in 4 weeks. That's a lot of bouncing around before your bye. I'll say they win one of those games.
I said they win them all.
They're 4-4 when they get done. All right.
7-1.
Next up. God, there's some dog crap games this week. Cardinals 26, Panthers 16. I mean, I don't know what the Panthers do. I don't know what the Panthers could do. I'm so glad I don't care about this.
Brinson, you should be the quarterback for the Panthers.
Like Baker Mayfield was 22 of 36 for a $197, a touchdown, and 2 picks.
So he threw 14 incompletions. I'm going to wager that 12 of them were knocked down to the line of scrimmage, and 2 of them were
Everything was
interceptions.
getting swatted.
He was at the point late in the game where he was actually throwing like a hissy fit behind the line of scrimmage every time the ball got knocked down. It's tough to play like that. It's tough to run routes. Like during the week, DJ Moore was answering questions about how can he get more open. I mean, DJ Moore isn't the problem. It's a mess. Like we're at the point where we're like, you know what? Sam Darnold wasn't that bad.
And it is like if you're a receiver running routes, even if you are open, and it's not like Baker's gonna get you the ball because there's a 50% chance the ball's getting batted down at the line of scrimmage. And it literally felt like, I mean, you don't want to like blame one person for a loss, but when you throw 2 really ugly interceptions, one of them was, I think, intended for DJ Moore. The game was 13-10. It was still definitely could have gone either way. And then nope, Baker Mayfield gets picked
5
off.
of his passes were batted at the line, by the way. Most in any game this season for any quarterback.
That
He has 10 passes batted at the line of season, also most in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus.
So that seems like a problem.
This is the first game this season where he's completed over 60% of his passes. That's also a problem. And the Panthers are now 1-26 under Matt Rule in games where they allow 17 or more points.
Yeah, I think Matt Rule might be, fingers crossed, hoping for that Wisconsin job.
Think of being the
I think
opponent
Matt Rule's
playing
more likely to go to Baylor.
to play the Panthers, and you know you don't have to do a shootout. You just say, oh, if we score 17 points, we win. That's all we have to do. Like even the Broncos could beat them, or the Colts, or any of these other crappy offenses we talk about.
Yeah,
By the way, Victor mentioned this in the comments. I didn't see it in real time, but I just looked it up. Kyler and Cliff were going at it early in the fourth quarter. It looks like the Cardinals burned their second time out with 13 or so minutes to go. And Kyler's barking at him, and handsome Cliff is just trying to bark.
They are
back.
like a couple that's been married for 50 years, and like they just like that, but they know they can't separate because there's nowhere else to go. It is you're made for each other, you're made for no one.
Kyler was doing a lot of talking in this game. Looked like he was kind of lift up. By the way, they're 2-2 now, and they're a lot like the Broncos, it feels like.
And there are a couple Breech that they're both like so incredibly good looking that you can't imagine them with anyone else. Like they seem like not even human, but clearly they're not good together.
That's a problem. Good win for them, I guess. They stormed along in the second half.
It's a win. That the Panthers, again, another team the Steelers should beat at least 5.5 times out of 10. That's
the Panthers are a bottom 5 team.
I would take the Bears over the Panthers in a Super Bowl of mediocrity.
Probably, yeah.
Does Matt Rule make it to November?
No. No, he might.
I mean, I think it's probably contractual based, and also, I get a sense of like, do you want to save money by letting him stick around?
David Tepper is the second richest owner of the league.
Well, yes, but is it possible that he would leave for the Wisconsin or the Nebraska job, and you can save face by not having to fire him and not having to spend all that money? Because I do think there's a chance there's like a mutual, like he's like, hey, I can go get this Nebraska job. I can rebuild there. They have Big Ten money. And Tepper's like, great. Why don't you take that job? You leave here and take that job. I don't think
we'll write a nice little statement.
Yeah, we'll be like, we appreciate Matt for everything he did in building this organization.
And by the way, take Baker Mayfield with you. All right, what's next?
By the way, Marquise Brown, second most targets in the NFL behind Devontae Adams right now. Finally, Titans at Colts. Titans 24, Colts 17. A scorcher, a barn burner. The Derrick Henry starting to break out there. 22 carries, 114 yards, and a touchdown. Ryan Tannehill, 70-21, Buck 37 and 2 touchdowns. This is a quintessential Titans game. Not a whole lot from your quarterback, but just enough. And Derrick Henry pounds the ball. And then the Colts had they were down 24-3, getting absolutely roasted and scored the next 2 touchdowns. And there were no more points in the game. There was one touchdown, one score in the second half.
So let me check my notes here. But in the meantime, I'll mention this. Before the season, I always said, if you're asking me if I'll take Derrick Henry or Ryan Tannehill over Jonathan Taylor, Matt Ryan, I'm going to take Matt Ryan and Jonathan Taylor.
No longer.
I look like an idiot for saying that because Matt Ryan is done. Jonathan Taylor has yet to get going. Derrick Henry, as you noted, looks fantastic. And one thing I wanted to mention, Breech, I don't know if you saw this, but where is it? Oh, yeah. So it's 24-17 with just over 2 minutes to go in the game. And Frank Reich decides to kick a field goal on 4th and 21
Oh yeah.
from like the plus 40, wherever it was from. It was a 50-something yard field goal, but they missed it, and
badly.
And I'm like, I get it on some level, because let's say you make it and then you get the onside
No.
kick.
I want to ask you about that on getting it on some level, because you have to make a 50-yard field goal, 51-yard field goal.
I'm just trying to do the math. And
No, I'm trying to do it too. Like I'm not like you to make a 51-yard field goal. You have to recover an onside.
I don't know how many timeouts they had at that point. I mean, you could.
They had all three of the timeouts.
They had all three.
Yeah.
So if you get it before the 2 minute, you might have a chance. But yeah, you get to do that either way. I was actually thinking it might make more sense just to punt the ball, like pin them deep. I don't know what the analytics say, but kicking the field goal there.
He was definitely going to run twice.
I was like, this seems like a dumb idea. Is Frank right?
You're only down 7. You don't need. Why would you kick the field goal?
But it's 4th and 21. So that's,
I feel like converting a 4th and 21 is more likely than making a 51-yard field goal and getting an onside kick.
I would just punt it. I punt it.
Or if you're thinking about punting it, you could combine the two of kicking the field goal and then kicking off deep, because you still have 3 timeouts.
But you got to make the field goal.
Well, you do have to make the field goal.
That's the problem.
And then, but the thing was, even with the missed field goal, it wasn't over because they had all 3 timeouts, but the Colts just couldn't stop the Titans.
Are Frank Reich and or Chris Ballard is that seat getting warm for either of those two?
Oh, they didn't kick on sides, never mind, because he missed a field goal. Duh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think here's the problem for the Colts front office and Frank Reich. I think Chris Ballard does a really good job. This team doesn't appear to have it this year. They're missing, the offensive line size is what it was, and I think somebody pointed out maybe a high ankle sprain for Jonathan Taylor. That's not great. The problem is it's going to be perceived by Jim Irsay, who's definitely getting a little older and wants to win now, like a lot of these NFL owners, as back-to-back years of unsuccessfully trading for a veteran quarterback and being unable to recognize the quarterback. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the Rivers thing worked, but the Wentz thing didn't, even if it wasn't as bad as it seemed, like just the Week 18 disaster. And right now the Matt Ryan thing is not working. So that's going to get pinned on the front office and the coaching staff. Now, I would think that because Matt Ryan essentially said he would want to play 2 years, that he would wait 1 more year, because they have had success with this regime, in generally speaking. But if this season's a disaster, yeah, Frank Reich is going to.
This team is worse than last year's team with Carson Wentz.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, that team was like just win week.
Team would have gone to the playoffs last
Yeah,
year.
but they didn't have Shaquille Leonard for the
Are you
first 3
saying
weeks.
this team is worse? Yeah, right. Yeah,
The
right.
defense was much better last year. Like Wentz had if Matt Ryan played on last year's team, actually, I don't know, because Matt Ryan has not looked good.
Let's keep it real.
You lost your defensive coordinator. Gus Bradley didn't do it a whole lot, and
you guys can make all the excuses you want,
just this game, first possession, Matt Ryan fumbles, boom, and it's just like, if you're a Colts fan, it's like, oh my God, here we go again. This guy turns the ball over 7 times per game. What do we do?
I don't think that he'll fire them unless it's just a disastrous season. But that's disastrous season is very much on the table.
That's fine. Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying they should be fired. I'm just asking.
Their bye is so late.
They have 2
Guys,
wins.
I have a question for you too. What about Andrew Luck? Like, didn't Andrew Luck kind of put like the Colts in a bad position, like him obviously retiring? Because like, if we think about it, like they would still have Andrew Luck right now.
Well, it put them in a good position because they got Phillip Rivers. But
Well,
yes, Billy.
the Colts put Andrew Luck in a bad position
Thank
by
you, Breech.
not putting an offensive line in front of him, by letting him get beat up for 8 straight years, where he said, yeah, you know what? I would literally rather retire than play any more football for this organization.
Yeah,
I read that story, like basically scathing, like the Colts for like everything they did with Andrew Luck. I can't remember. I can't remember where. Is it when he retired, or is it when I read something? I just remember like it was basically like, you guys have ruined the career of a potential Hall of Fame quarterback, and you deserve all the scoring in the world for it. And they did do that. They did put him in a bad position. But yes, he did put them in a bad position too, Billy, by retiring, because now they've been trying to find out the quarterback position. And part of the problem is if you have a Rivers and a Wentz, so Rivers goes to the playoffs, loses first round. Wentz misses the playoffs by 1 game. Matt Ryan will probably get him around 500. You're not going to have the opportunity to get a new quarterback. They traded one of their first round picks for DeForest Buckner. So they've sort of been in this like weird purgatory where they've had this roster and they've had this, like decent teams, but they never over the top, and they've never had the opportunity to go get a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's karma. They went from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck. Maybe it's time that they have a bunch of end of the career veteran quarterbacks who've been good. But I'm not.
And go
I
ahead,
was
Ryan.
going to say that this isn't. I wouldn't put this on Andrew Luck any more than, you put it on. He got tired. Lucky to your point, Breech. He got tired of getting trucked every week. He couldn't even walk.
He had like a lacerated spleen. Like we're talking just the worst kind of injuries that have pain that is nonstop, and that lifestyle.
Exactly. That's like a dog that keeps biting his owner, and then you get mad at the owner for taking the dog to the pound because he doesn't want him anymore. Well, he kept biting me. What was I supposed to do? Andrew Luck quit on the Colts. Moose says in the comments, never in history is a top quarterback built like that. He just didn't like football. I mean, maybe, but I also would argue that, let's let you get hit by a truck 17 times a year for 8 years, and maybe you might feel differently.
And fun fact, so I looked it up real quick. Frank Reich's 4th down decision on 4th and 21. Our Ben Baldwin bot says kicking the field goal was the smarter play versus going for it. Punting was not listed as an option because it only lists 2 options.
Yeah.
So I would like to have seen where punting would have fallen there, but the kicking the field goal was the play that made the most sense because it was 4th and 21, which is like such a low percentage of success.
I don't think 4th and 21 probably ever wins out in that conversation unless it's the last play of the game.
Yeah. And then you start asking yourself, how do we get into 4th and 21 in the 4th quarter in such a key situation? Oh, yeah, because our quarterback got sacked for an 8-yard loss on 3rd and 13.
I read this in everything the Colts said about Andrew Luck's injury for 2 years raises red flags. April 18th, 2017. My gosh, how the time.
That's the last time you actually wrote a story, too. Where'd you found it?
All right. I'll do it for us.
Record time. Way to go, Billy.
Yeah, really keeping it tight. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow, whatever tomorrow is.
Why the 49ers on Monday Night Football?
Oh, yeah, we'll do Monday Night Football recap. And then, of course, we'll be doing a show on Tuesday and Wednesday and every day from now until all eternity.
It's Groundhog Day. Go, Kitty Pickett.
For Wilson, for Breech, I'm Brinson. See you guys later.